tell you, while everyone's lining up, it's really, really nice to be home. And I mean, yesterday was just a comedy of people that I hadn't seen in such a long time. I met a really old friend yesterday, Robin, who's not here today. She came in from, I think, Renfrew, Ontario. Really? Okay, because it's a town of 8,000 people, and if you're here, where's the rest of the town? Anyway, Robin and I don't know if anyone ever went here, but we went to something called the Ontario Educational Leadership Center. And Robin and I spent an awesome, tremendous, unforgettable week of our lives together in August of 1994. I had not seen her. She walked up to the table and she said, "You're not gonna remember me." And I said, "Robin from OELC." And she went, "Yeah." And she showed me a handwritten note that I gave her at the end of camp. My penmanship was exceptional, even back then. And I gotta tell you, if you're thinking about saving letters that you write girls when you're going into 8th grade, don't do it. If you receive a letter from someone that you eventually want to have something on, definitely save it. This. Oh my God. And then, of course, I was here. I went to St. Andrews College up in Aurora, and I met a bunch of. Yeah, that's okay. And I met a bunch of St. Andrews boys yesterday, and anyway, it just. A lot of these places that I visit and cons are really special, but nothing will ever be more special than being home. Yes.
So, who is your favorite superhero?
Superman. I mean, who's your favorite superhero? I met a guy yesterday who looks exactly like Kevin Pillar. He's like, people always tell me that I look like Pillar. I'm like, well, you should go as Halloween as Pillar. And he's like, well, and I go, don't outthink the room. Just go as Pillar, man. It's pretty simple. Who's your favorite superhero?
I would have to say Deadpool.
Cool. Well, see, how old are you?
12.
Okay, so what are you watching Deadpool for? Actually, you know what? You bring up a good point, because my daughter's about to be 4 years old, and this year, around this time last year when she was about to be 3, we had our first sort of special daddy-daughter weekend together. And of course, I wanted to watch a movie with her because I like watching movies and she will sit still. So of course we watched Adventures in Babysitting, which I remember the original. Don't pretend like you've seen it. And but it was rated PG. There's some F-bombs in that thing. That would not be rated PG today. That would be rated R. So anyway, yeah, and my point is that your favorite superhero is Deadpool. Is it because of the comics or because of the movie?
Oh, I always kind of found him funny.
Okay, well, when I was growing up, Christopher Reeves was Superman, right? And so I remember seeing Superman 3 and Superman 4. Superman 4, retrospectively, was really bad. But I saw it in the theater in Port Carling, Ontario, and at the time, it was the best movie ever. So I would go with Superman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, Stephen. Just want to say it's a pleasure having you here, this weekend. Just a quick comment. I really love the charity work that you're doing with helping Houston and the hurricane stuff. So, with that. This is a PG-13 audience, right? Yeah. Okay. So John Barrowman was here a few days ago.
He could always be around the corner. That's how I live my life. Barrowman is always standing behind me, waiting to strike.
Doing something, exactly. Do I go with the art? R-rated question? Or PG?
PG.
Okay, sure. I was just wondering, what do you think of directing an episode of Arrow? And if you could cast anyone, just anyone from any other show, who would you cast from it?
Who would I cast? Like, who would I want the episode to be centered around?
Right, like a special guest or anything like that.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't really need to look too far past the cast that we have on the show now.
Right.
You know, one of the things that I've really angled for over the past couple of years, and it's been successful, is I really wanted to work not as many Mondays as I had been working. Because a lot of times, because my daughter's gonna be in school in California now, because whenever the show's done, that's where our life is. A lot of times I travel on the weekends. So a lot of the times, when it's not summer in Vancouver, you know, I'm commuting on the weekend. You know, the same way that, you know, someone commutes from Oakville to Toronto, I'm commuting from Vancouver to Los Angeles. Same difference. With the traffic here. That's a joke about the traffic. It's really, really bad. I live in Los Angeles. Trust me, it's worse here. I can say it, I'm from Toronto. What was my point? Oh yes, I've angled to have a more concentrated schedule, so I would feel just a little bit hypocritical if I angled for A more concentrated schedule, but then B, asked for something like directing. Furthermore, the process of directing an episode of Arrow means that you have to be prepping for that episode, and that includes when you get the concept draft of the script, finding locations, taking network tone notes, just production meetings, stunt meetings, wardrobe meetings, makeup meetings, guest star casting, all of that stuff. That exists before the episode starts. Like someone like James Bamford, who is now our producing director on the show, he has scouted out every single scene, how he wants to shoot it, what he thinks the angles will be. He puts a lot of work into the prep. Then you actually have to shoot the episode. You are there every second of every day. There's not a time that you take off. I always laugh because the director has a trailer. You know, when you're walking amongst the trailers, the director has a trailer. Never seen a director use it, ever. They're always on set. Even on lunch, they eat and then they go think about what they're gonna do next. And then, once you finish the episode, you have to fly to LA, you have to look at an assembly, and you have to spend 2 days putting it all together and creating a director's cut that then gets handed off to producers in the studio and the network. I don't know how I would do it. I mean, aside from doing the premiere, I'm always working. So I know that a couple of cast members are shadowing directors. So I think that eventually we are gonna have some cast of the show direct. And what I would rather do is I'd rather put my full support behind them directing than me direct.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, man.
Hi, Stephen. First off, how's Ned the Nerf?
My back's okay.
Yeah?
It's okay.
Um,
It's all right.
this summer, you spent some time in Toronto filming Code 8
Yeah.
with a bunch of us here also.
Code 8 extras in the house, probably.
Yes.
Little less than from Renfrew, but whatever.
During the time of filming, I know you never worked with your cousin before. Did you learn anything about your cousin, either professionally or personally, during that time?
Yeah, he's a decent actor. Sorry,
that's new?
I didn't watch him in Scooby-Doo. I don't know what you want from me. No, spending this sort of time with Robbie was fantastic, and I mean that sincerely. He's a really good actor. You never really know what someone's like in the way that they prepare until you've actually worked with them. And I think that he and I meshed well together because we prepare in the same way, which is know the script, know the intentions, and then once you actually get the scene on its feet, let it breathe a little bit and see what happens. So there was also a lot of room in Code 8 for, I wouldn't go so far as to say improvisation, but the scenes had a lot of variation to it. And yeah, it was cool to see his work ethic. He works really hard. And I think that has resulted in what is so far and will continue to be a really good career for him. And I'm excited. I'm excited for Cody. My character is different, and I think that I hope that people will enjoy it. It's so frustrating. I wish that people could just see it. I wish we could just watch it, but it's got like a year of post-production work to be done. But we had, has anyone seen The Handmaid's Tale? Okay, I'm watching that right now, and a lot of the cast and crew, particularly the A-camera operator, the director of photography, they worked on that movie, and they worked on that series. And watching that series now, I have such high hopes for Code 8 because it's so beautiful. And it's the first series ever that has successfully made Toronto not look like Toronto. You guys know this? You're watching a movie, they're like, oh, we're in Florida. No, you're not. You're on Queen West, I can tell. It always takes me out of it. So I was worried about watching The Handmaid's Tale, but they did a great job. So I'm excited for Code 8, and working with Robbie was great. I hope that we get to do more of it.
Thank you.
And thank you all, if you supported the movie in any way, shape, or form, extra or otherwise, thank you guys so much. It's so appreciated.
Hi. When working on the crossover episodes with Flash, what has been your favorite behind-the-scenes moment with the Flash cast?
With the Flash cast? Well, my favorite behind-the-scenes moment on the Flash, you could call it a crossover episode, but it was actually the pilot episode of the Flash, when, you know, I show up and give him his name. David Nutter directed the pilot of Arrow. David Nutter directed the pilot of Flash, and brought basically the exact same crew from the Arrow pilot to the Flash. So that would have been shot in February, March of 2014. 2 years, give or take, from right when we shot the Arrow pilot. So at that point, we've done, you know, coming up 40 some odd episodes. And just to be back at the beginning, so to speak, to watch Grant and what he was going through, in a good way, but watch what he was going through, and just to be back and to all of a sudden, it was the first time ever for Arrow that I could look in the rearview mirror a little bit and feel a sense of accomplishment in that, you know, maybe this was happening because we had had some success, and, you know, look back at what we had done. So that was my favorite behind the scenes moment, just being with Grant and David, and yeah, that was pretty special. Thank you. Hey, before I get to you, is Troy here? You are? Yeah, 3 years late, but thanks for coming. That's between him and me. Yes.
Mr. Amell, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Awesome, buddy. Awesome.
By the way, some kid yesterday, he goes, sir. I go, don't call me sir. He goes, okay, Mr. Amell. I'm like,
I mean it as respect, I promise.
okay.
Really quick,
what's your last name?
it's Kavanaugh.
Yes, Mr. Kavanaugh. What's your question?
No problem, anytime. Really quick, I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the charity work you do. I myself, 3 years ago, started doing some charity work as well, strictly based off of seeing you do it. Shaved my head now 3 times. This is my 3rd time I'll do it for a wig. And I just wanted to know, are you planning on doing any fundraisers or foundations in Toronto? Or any kind of an organization to help raise money in Toronto? I know you're busy, but...
No, you know, when I was here filming Code 8, I got a chance to go back to Emily's house, which is an end-of-life care home for children that Cody Rhodes and I were able to donate some money to back when we did our match a couple of years ago. So it was really fun to be back there. I was speaking last night with my friend Robin. Her daughter suffers from something called Angelman syndrome. And whenever I'm looking for something that I can have a personal attachment to. So I know that there's a validity to it, and that if I'm going to be helping people, it's coming from it's going somewhere where it should. At the end of the month, we're going to do another F Cancer fundraiser. It's that time of the year, so we're working on designs for that right now. And then for charity, Toronto, sure, but it as long as it's important to me, it could be anywhere, except Hamilton. I'm kidding. And by the way, one of the things I love about being from Toronto is I grew up Toronto, like young in St. Clair. So A, I can tell when taxi drivers are lying to me. Okay, I know what's up. We're gonna take this way. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. B, I really love when I meet people here at the table. I'm like, where are you from? And they go, Toronto. I go, where? And they go, what? Mississauga. That's cool. It's cool. It's like the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, but whatever. Yes.
Hi. First of all, I want to thank you for coming this weekend.
Thank you.
Especially on the weekend of my birthday.
Oh, hey.
Happy birthday.
A lot of birthdays yesterday. Every time I looked over, David Ramsey was singing happy birthday.
I want to ask you, what was one of your favorite behind-the-scene moments from this season?
That's a good question. How am I gonna answer this without getting in trouble? I think some of my favorite behind-the-scenes moments have just been nice, long, sprawling conversations with Manu Bennett this year, actually. Yeah. So he and I, he's been on a journey and not really a part of the show since the end of season 2, and we've had a chance to spend some time together this year. I don't know if the title of episode 5 is Deathstroke Returns. So, spoiler. So it's been nice talking with him. A lot of his travels, I like hearing Manu talk about Iceland. I can listen to Manu talk about Iceland for 5 hours and just be totally satisfied. Yeah, that's been a nice behind-the-scene moment, and it's also been really, really fun working with young Jack. He's like 12 years old, who plays William on the show. No, actually, he's older than. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, he's been great. His parents are always on set, either his mom or his dad, and just working out the scenes with him. He's a really talented actor, but just making sure that our scenes are on point. No pun intended. I swear to God, has been great.
Yeah, that was actually my second question. Since we've never had really a kid on the show, is the feeling on the set different?
Yeah, shorter days. We got a minor. We're not taking meal penalty today. The kid has to eat. Yeah, that's been great.
But Mr. Amell, who do you miss working with most on the set? Mr. Amell, who do you miss working with most on the set?
Ladies and gentlemen, David Ramsey.
Hey guys. No, you take the seat, man. I can't take your seat. Hey, Toronto, what's good? Such a sweetheart.
How do you answer questions about this season? It's frustrating.
How do I answer questions about the season? I think your question, your answer at Comic-Con was really good. The first few episodes, it's kind of like a slow burn. There wasn't anything that made you go wow, as much as it made you go oh, it's kind of ramping up. It's a 23-show season, so it's a lot of story.
Yep.
It's a ton of story.
You're not doing a good job.
I know. Well, the crossover, I'm looking forward to the crossover.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm getting the full rundown on the crossover on Wednesday, but I got the elevator pitch, and in my head I'm like, how are you guys gonna top Aliens? What's that? Okay. Oh my God, really? No, you're not. We are? But how? I'm not. I can't be. I am?
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna be like, is that Oliver Queen? No, it's John Diggle! That's how we top Aliens.
Oh boy.
Crazy.
They did take I made a pitch for the crossover that is happening though. You'll know it when you see it. You won't. I'll tell you after the fact. But just know that I know and he knows that I know that I pitched it and they used it, and man, we can't say anything. Do you want to share?
No, I'm not gonna stay here long. I just
Okay.
want to say what's up, guys. And give you some love. See you guys. See you guys later.
First time I met David Ramsey was in the lobby bar at the Sutton Place in Vancouver, where all the pilots stay, and or when everyone who's shooting a pilot in Vancouver. So all the month of February and March, it is just overrun with everyone that thinks that they are on the next ER. Okay, nobody is. Maybe yes. But I remember the first time I met David, and he goes, "How are you?" And I go, "I'm good, man. Yeah, good. Prep's good. Everything's fine." And he literally like picked up a table and moved it out of the way and got right in my face and goes, "No, really, how are you?" I'm good. Good. Best friends ever since. Yes.
Hi. Hi, Stephen. I'm Logan.
Hey, man.
I'd just like to know, what was it like filming the 4-part crossover with the Dominators, with the cast of Legends, Flash, and Supergirl?
I mean, it was incredible. You know, when we were shooting out at that airport hangar, you know, when Supergirl arrives for the first time, we've got all the casts there. You kind of look, you take a moment, and you be a little reflective, and you say, "Wow, you know, this is." Look what we've had the chance to build. Look at the universe that we've had a chance to populate. And then very selfishly, you know, it falling in our 100th episode, all the people that we got to bring back, you know, specifically and most importantly, for me, Susanna Thompson, who hadn't been on the show since her character met a sword. You know, having her back and just the stuff that we got to do in that episode. It's also the closest that we've ever gotten to having to call a day for weather. When we shot that big epic fight scene where all of us go up against sort of, you know, our mind's eye enemy. It was just gale force winds, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and you know, what people were able to accomplish in those conditions with the gravity of that scene. Really, you know, like I just want to stand and applaud our crew and the cast in moments like that. That was really fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
What's up?
Hi. What was the funniest thing John Barrowman did on set?
Today? Because I was just going through Instagram stories and he's walking around as Wonder Man at WonderCon in high heels, just could. Is he here? No, I mean, to pick like your favorite thing or the funniest thing that John Barrowman has done is like picking your favorite flavor of ice cream. You can, but they're all so good. Why would you want just one? And to that end, I've learned a lot of lessons from John, and I mean principally, how to be the lead of a show. You know, he was the first guy that I got to pick his brain. boy, there's nothing that I can say about him that can't be turned into something filthy immediately. But I really, oh my God. I was gonna say I got to poke at him, oh my God. He had been the lead of a show. I was the lead, am the lead of a show. So to hear about his experiences on Torchwood, and then just in general to watch the way that he carries himself, to watch the level of respect that he has for the crew, to watch the fact that his energy never changes, right? Like, if they held a camera on John and we were on stage, I want you to tell me, is it 10 o'clock on Monday morning, or is it 4 o'clock on Friday morning? Tell me. You can't, because he's always the same. He always brings that same level of energy and professionalism and just joy to work, and he carries that through with, he and I hanging out in Palm Springs, or when we have these con weekends. It's just, don't laugh. It's just great. I love John. I miss him. Thanks, man.
So I've been a fan of you for a long time, and as long as I can remember, your bio on Facebook always had well-fed artist in it. And I always thought that it kind of conveyed the idea that your intention was to have a career in acting outside of celebrity or fame. And so what I was kind of wondering, as a currently starving broke student artist, was there a point in your career where you kind of had that mentality that I'm gonna have a career in acting, whether it be a certain role or maybe a shift in mentality? And maybe more specifically, is that when you kind of went to LA?
I wish the reason that it says well-fed artist was more virtuous than it is. My ex-girlfriend was doing an interview with the Globe and Mail, and the conversation was not about me, but we had been together for a long time. And she called me a starving artist. So now it says well-fed artist in my bio. I will give you one guess what my production company is called.
Yes, well-fed artist.
Productions?
Yeah.
Yep. No, but that breakup was really important to me. I was living in Toronto. I'd been with someone for a very long time. And it ended, and I took stock of what was important to me. And it was the first time that I looked at it and I said, my family's important, my friends are important, and I really love acting. So, and that, any vocation in the arts. I met a young girl yesterday, and we were talking about it, and I said, any vocation in the arts, you can't attach money to it, because the tether is sometimes very long. If you're a lawyer and you're really talented, you get paid accordingly, for sure. There are very talented actors, musicians, and painters and singers and songwriters that are not as successful financially, but that's okay, And the other thing that I really rejected, I'd like to shine some light on something, because a bunch of people on social media are like, do you only own 4 shirts? Because I always wear the same shirt. No, it's not that I only own 4 shirts. It's part of my language. It's that I don't give a shit. Because material things used to be really important to me. And it was at that time that I found myself rejecting them. So to me, it's like, yeah, I'll wear the same shirt because it's comfy and because I feel good in it. And that helps me get into a positive energy space to, come out and meet a bunch of people, or, walk to set and feel good, or to come home and be a good dad. I'm rambling, I'm sharing too much. But yeah, well-fed artist productions. Thank you. Thanks, man.
Hi. So I think the fans of Era can agree that when Arsenal left, the show really lost something.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you, without revealing any further plans, would you be open to Arsenal coming back? Would you welcome that idea?
Oh, of course. Having Colton Haynes on the show, and working with him and getting to know him was tremendous. You know, we had a couple of great years together, and you know, we had this like kind of emotional reunion at San Diego Comic-Con this year, and just seeing him because he was there. I think he was there with the Teen Wolf folks, or just there because he's Colton. Oh man. But I would love to have him back on the show. Yeah, we lost something when we lost him for sure. It'd be great to have him back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, what was your process to be cast on the show of Arrow?
To be cast on the show of Arrow, I was working on Private Practice. I wasn't a regular on that show. The script came out for Arrow. The breakdown came out. David Rappaport was casting it. He had cast me on 90210 as a guy that was lost at sea and presumed dead. He was the first guy that I brought in. I read on a Tuesday. Came back to work with David Nutter, the director, on a Thursday. I tested for the network on Friday. I tested for the studio on Monday. Got cast on Tuesday.
Wow.
And for all you aspiring actors out there, that's how it always works. No, there's a really good saying. I don't know who said it. It might have been me. You're never right for a part until you're perfect for it. Right? Wow. You a big Lost fan? Anyone watch Lost? Don't watch it again, but stick with that first watch. I rewatched it with my wife when she was pregnant. Let's get the second time. That's neither here nor there. I loved it when it was on. Josh Holloway, who plays Sawyer, right? Couldn't get cast because he was not a this guy type or that guy type. And then he gets cast as Sawyer. He is a major standout, breakout performer in the first season of the show, which, by the way, I do actually love. Please, internet, I love Lost so much. Somebody record this. I love it. I wept in the final episode. The end of season 3 is my favorite season finale of all time. Anyway, we have to go back. So anyway, he's really good. What do you think the breakdown said the following pilot season? What sort of type do you think they were looking for? Josh Holloway, right? So when you're right for something, just fits. And for whatever reason, the vision that they had for Oliver Queen, the place that I was at in my career, the casting director that was on it, the studio that was producing it, the network that was going to air it, everything just came together.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for coming out.
Welcome.
I had a question. You've been posting about dealing with back problems.
Yeah.
I come from a family with back problems as well.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that while also staying in such good shape for the show and also dealing with all the heavy stunts required for the show?
Well, you got to manage it. It's like anything else. I think that the past couple of months have been a wake-up call for me that I'm not 26 years old. I'm glad you think that's funny. No, but seriously, like I used to just roll out of bed and do the salmon ladder. You can't do that anymore. Like I gotta warm up, I gotta stretch, you know what I mean? Last year when I did Ninja Warrior, when I came off that second obstacle and you see me touching my arm like this, it's because I couldn't feel anything south of my shoulder. I thought my bicep had torn off. So, it didn't. I ended up with something called compartment syndrome, which ultra marathon runners get. It's when you get so much fascia around the muscle that it starts to bleed toxins into it. It's awesome. The point is that I just have to prepare for it. So now, if I have a problematic back, that means that I have to find a chiropractor that's good. That means that I have to stay in good shape. That means that I have to stretch before I exercise. That means that I have to drink so much water that you're gonna see me get up from the table 11 times today if you're standing in line, because I'm gonna have to pee so much, because I want to lubricate my body so that my joints can operate, and I don't know if that's medically correct, but it's correct in my head, so it works. But it's no different, you know, it's no different. What do you do? What do you do for work? Or what do you do in general?
I'm a student, but I work during
Okay,
the summer.
well, you're a student. Well, you can't walk into an exam without studying, right? And I can't walk into a day of shooting without, you know, going through that checklist. You know, did I prefer rolling out of bed and being ready to go? Uh-huh. But at the same time, when my daughter wants to ride on my shoulders and I'm like, I can't because Dad has a boo-boo owie and it still hurts. She's like, well, what if I kiss it? Yeah, well... Okay, get on my shoulders, get on my shoulders, get on my shoulders. Anyway, I just have to prep a little bit more. That's all.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Hey, Stephen. So my question is kind of a three-parter. I know, but it's really quick, people, don't worry.
Okay.
SummerSlam, how did it come about?
Yeah.
How much in-ring time did you spend training for it? And who on the current roster would you want to fight now if you can get back in it?
SummerSlam came about when I was shooting Turtles in 2015. Went out to Raw at Nassau Coliseum. Cody Rhodes was a fan of the show. He's a comic book fan. More Star Trek than Arrow and possibly more Flash, but that's neither here nor there. And he was like, hey, I got permission to do a little thing with you at ringside if you're cool with it. I was. So we did that. And then he kept pitching straight to Vince McMahon, like, I want to do an angle with this guy. It came about. So when we knew that we were going to do it, I had 3 in-ring sessions with him and like a gaggle of wrestlers that were at the house show that night, and then at Raw on Monday. And then we took, I guess, 2 weeks off, and then we met again in Brooklyn and worked on it again, and that was that. And then we were supposed to, Cody and I were supposed to have a rematch, which I thought would have been, we had a great idea for it. And it just, it vanished. So, it was amazing though, man. I gotta get back in the, I can't just do it once. I have a problem that way. Thanks, man.
Hi, Stephen. I was going to ask you to do the Arrow intro, but since you already have enough back pain, that's enough torture. But what I want to know is, going into season 6, how would you describe, after playing the same character the past 5 years, like the evolution of Oliver Queen, and would you like to see some elements of the classic Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil characteristics get into the character for the next couple of seasons?
Well, I'm never gonna have the goatee, probably.
My friend says no to the goatee, by the way.
Okay. Well, I think that some of the more classic elements can start to come to the forefront now because, you know, we really are. I mean, we've always been telling our own story, but we are not conjoined anymore to his backstory. The thing that I've asked myself all the time, whenever I'm reading a script this year, and it comes down to an Oliver-based issue, is he handling this like someone who has learned lessons along the way? If he's not, then we change it, because if he hasn't evolved, if he hasn't taken away stuff from everything that has happened over the past 5 years, including and especially what happened at the end of season 5, then if I were a viewer, I'd be like, all right, enough with this guy. Seriously. I mean, what does it take for you to start learning lessons and to start being more inclusive and to start relying on other people and to start being honest and to maybe relax and loosen your grip a little bit? If it's not an island exploding with everyone you love on it, then what's it gonna be? The destruction of Earth? So that's what I'm really asking myself this year. Like, am I approaching this like someone who has learned lessons?
Oh, okay. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Hello, Stephen.
Hey, man.
So you just got done talking about your SummerSlam match, and you briefly mentioned your American Ninja Warrior run. Which were you more nervous about?
Oh, wrestling for sure. When I walked out of the Barclays Center, hey, you can't believe how small the ring is when it's sitting in the middle of an arena like that. All the moisture zapped right out of my mouth, and I was so nervous I actually physically forgot to get in the ring. That'd be like me doing this panel from the side of the stage, you know? So yeah, definitely wrestling. I didn't have time to be nervous on Ninja Warrior. You know, I was maybe nervous for the first obstacle, but then after that, I was focusing on the fact that I couldn't feel my arm. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
So I heard that John Barrowman's quite the prankster.
Sure. Has anyone seen him in Atlanta today?
I
Yeah.
was wondering what was the best or worst or most memorable prank pulled on set?
It's not that he pulls pranks. He's not like a prankster. It's not like all of a sudden it's not like all of a sudden, you know, that like I go to put on the aero suit and it's filled with A535 or something like that. But that would be pretty funny.
Don't give
It's,
him ideas.
I know, right? It's more that, you know, you've been to a panel. It's called, okay, well, John's panels typically are called Anything Goes. Anything goes. And John Barrowman gets away with more stuff than I've ever seen anyone get away with just because there's never a filter. So the expectation is he really could be behind me right now. Would anybody be surprised? Exactly. Yeah, he's just a good guy. I can't think of a particular prank though.
Also, I was wondering, is it true that John Barrowman's farts are odorless?
Yeah. Are you surprised? No. John's toots don't smell. I'm sorry, I'm in the practice of saying toots right now. I'm so sorry.
Hi. First off, I want to say that you did an awesome job on the one episode where you get kidnapped by Prometheus. Awesome. And my question ties in with that. So when you read the script and realized what you were going to be going into, how did you approach that headspace where Oliver is?
That's a good question. You know, I've never been kidnapped. I've never been tortured. You know, I've never had someone like, you know, probe at the deep recesses of my psychological makeup. So I didn't really, you know, I don't really know what to do other than just to, you know, one of the things I told them for that day was, there's that one scene where I lunge at Josh, right? And then the chains stop me. And as you will see on the upcoming blooper reel of season 5, I told them specifically, if this is gonna happen, I've got all of these moving parts. I really need to go to some funky places to get what we want from these scenes. These chains better hold me, right? They did not.
Oh no.
I broke them 4 separate times. And there's a great scene of me just lunging at him, and the chain breaks, and I fall flat on my face. By the way, I'm handcuffed. It could have been really bad. But as it stood, it's just me falling down, Josh doesn't move, and then I just roll over and go, fuck. Sorry? Cool. So, long story short, once we worked out the kinks with those chains, it was a lot about like in between takes, they'd be like, do you want to be let out if we're redoing the cameras? And it'd be like, no, just leave me in here. Do you want some water? No, I don't want any water. Do you want something to eat? Nope. Do you want me to stop asking you questions? Yep. You know, I read in, what was the James Franco movie? It was 27 hours? 127 hours. Exactly. I heard a lot of stories about how they would just run the camera. Just run the camera for like 35 minutes. Just watch him struggle. And we obviously didn't have that luxury, but it was more about just, trying to feel what it would be like to be chained to the ground, and how does that make you feel? And I was dirty, and I was cold, and it was uncomfortable, and that at least gave me some of the pieces that I needed to take the scene where it had to go. Thank you.
Hey, Stephen.
Hey.
I actually, in London though, somebody did ask you about that opening, and you said when you recorded the opening for season 6 in August that you would do it at the next con. So do you have that ready? And if not, I've got another question.
Haven't done it yet.
Okay.
They haven't asked me to do it yet.
Okay.
My name is Oliver Queen. Character X, Y, and Z survives.
Survives. They will let you know. Okay, so my question then is, so you mentioned lessons learned for Oliver. So we saw in season 5, he put killing back on the table.
Yeah.
But at the end of the season, he chose not to kill Chase. But I mean, I did think that the shades of gray were kind of interesting, as opposed to, we've seen the extremes of season 1 with the list versus season 2, kind of no killing. So where do you think we're going to see Green Arrow in that space this year? And also, how will Oliver build on the successes as mayor in season 5? Is he going to get more into the social justice, which was an element in season 1 of that list, right? Of looking after the little guy and that type of thing.
Well, I like the shades of gray. He didn't kill Chase because that ultimately was the goal.
Yeah.
But there's a hierarchy of importance for him. His family, his friends, the city, and if you get in the way of that, and you're willing to use lethal force, in our world, it will be returned in kind. Which I think, it's not how I like to live my life, but I think in the Arrow, in our show, that's more interesting.
Yeah.
And then, as mayor, we haven't really got into a lot of mayoral stuff. It's going well. Star City is I say a little bit about season 6. When we pick up, Star City in and of itself is in a reasonable place. We also left it where Green Arrow was kind of public enemy number 1. And the idea of vigilantes and their role within the city, and whether or not the public supports them, that does also play a role. But what we're really dealing with this season is that there's kind of a villain for every character. Normally we have a big bad villain. This year there's kind of a villain for every character. And I say that because there's a villain for Green Arrow, but there's also a villain for Oliver Queen.
Very cool. Thank you.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
Hi, Stephen.
Hey, by the way, I did get in trouble. I mentioned that Manu Bennett was, back on the show and involved, and I got a little bit of heat. And I was talking with them. I'm like, guys. I would never actively spoil things. And they're like, well, and I said, wait a minute. When we talk, and I'm talking with the PR team, and we have a great relationship. There's nothing actually wrong. But I'm like, when we talk, what am I always complaining about? And they're like, that we reveal too much. I'm like, precisely.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, man.
Now, I want to get into acting. What's your advice to somebody who's trying to get into acting? I got a great joke or laugh, but that's it so far.
Can I hear it?
Yeah.
It's a start. I think that the biggest thing in 2017 is you really have no excuse not to produce your own content. Do you have a phone? Yep. Does it have internet access? Absolutely. You're good to go. You know what I mean? Put something out on a social media platform. Put something out on a YouTube channel. Don't put anything out on Twitter. Put something out on Instagram. Do whatever people do on Tumblr. What do people do on Tumblr? I don't know. Make it get. There's no reason why you can't produce content that 2 people may watch or 20,000 people might watch. That's the way that I would start and begin. And find a teacher. Find a teacher that you really connect to, that speaks to you, and that talks about acting the way that you think about it, which is not easy to find, but you can find them. Go from there. Thank you, man.
Hi, Stephen.
Hey, man.
This is awesome. It's like really cool. So welcome again. And like this, yeah. So I've been a fan of Arrow since season 1. I've watched it with my dad. It's been awesome. Like really, it's great. I was just wondering, do you have a favorite season maybe, or a favorite costume?
Yeah, 1 and 1. Season 1 and the first costume. I don't think that season 1 is the best season that we've ever done, but you'll never sort of replicate the level of accomplishment that you feel having never done 23 episodes, completing them. All right, I have a fun idea, which I've never done, actually. We are going to take 10 speed round questions, okay? So take your question in your head, if you're in line, boil it down to something, come to the mic, ask it, and I'll kick back an answer.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, man. All right, ready?
Hi, Stephen.
Hi.
I hear that Die Hard is your favorite movie.
Yep.
Is it because of the iconic characters, like archetypes, or did it inspire you to become an actor?
John McClane was cool.
Did it inform your ideas of good and evil? Like,
What's that?
Did it inform your ideas of good and evil, or villains and
No.
heroes?
I was
and
8.
villains?
Thank you. 9 more.
Good day, sir. I'm just proud to be Torontonian like you are.
Thank you, man.
So, a few questions quick. So first,
We're
are
missing
you-
this whole idea. Pick one question, really quick, and we'll get through as many people as we can. Ready?
All right.
You can do it.
So, please don't tell me DC fans. You like Marvel, Netflix, and all that, right? So I'm just asking, do you think
I've
you
never
like...
watched a single Marvel Netflix show, not 1 second. Not on purpose. Not on purpose. I watch lots of TV. I just haven't watched it.
ask about hallway fight scenes, prolonged takes, and one scenes, but since you don't watch that, I'm gonna skip past that. Instead, I'm gonna ask, you plan to do an Arrow movie, right? So how do you think your brother Robbie would look, you know, as Nightwing or Batman?
This idea is falling flat on his face.
I know, I feel embarrassed, but
Robbie
please.
would look great as Batman. Have you seen him?
Yeah, I've seen him.
That's who he looks like. Thanks, man. All right, we'll stop this. Okay, we actually have to wrap it up, so we'll stop with this little guy, which I really appreciate. By the way, speaking of little guys, one of the coolest things is like I see like family. Like I ran into a teacher that I had yesterday. Ran into a family friend. Of course, I ran into Robin from camp. When I was here in 2014, I met a guy who was a little guy at the time, Keegan, and his whole family, the Blagdens, who came in from Barrie today. But they're here again. But we've got to hang out a bunch of times since then. I really can't overemphasize how good it feels to come back and see so many familiar faces. First and foremost being Keegan, my buddy, right there. Thanks, man. Okay, it better be good.
I just want to congratulate you on American Ninja Warrior. How great you done.
Nailing it so far.
We were cheering you on at home.
Thank you. Is that it?
Yes.
It can't get any better than that, Toronto. Thank you guys so much.